Hello, wonderful people. Natasha Anand here, and I want to talk to you today about permission seeking and how permission seeking is a two-way process. So often on our personal development journey, or our awakening journey, or our journey of evolution, some may call it, we get to certain points where we want to step into something new. So, for example, I now feel open to meeting a romantic partner, or I feel ready to look for a new job, or whatever it might be. And often included in this process, we do recognize, we're aware that there is some level of permission seeking or permission granting that is involved with this. So we become aware that, it's really time for me to give myself permission to find a new partner, or to open up to love, or to make that step and, be introduced to somebody. And this is wonderful. This is a really wonderful part of our journey. And I want to explain how this is a two-way process. And there's more than one set of permission seeking happening. So we're not just looking to give ourselves permission to go out there and do it. It's not necessarily as simple as that. And I'm going to break this down a little bit. So we have, in our internal world, we have parts of us that are going to, of course, want to step out and to approach this new experience. And our system is also polarized often with another part of us that wants to protect us from doing that, or even wants to avoid doing that. And that's because this part of us is ultimately protecting us, is ultimately trying to keep us safe, because it remembers a time when we weren't safe. It remembers a time when we might have been hurt or experienced pain or suffering. So while there's this part that really is saying, it's now time to give myself permission to let go, there may be a part in our system that feels afraid of doing that, feels apprehensive of doing that, has concerns about doing that. And if we ignore this part of us, we're not getting the whole picture. We're leading with one part and going along with that part. We're not recognizing that there might be a part of us that's holding fear or anxiety around that. And that suppression of that part of us can lead to perhaps imbalances later on. It can come up later on. So what I want to share with this is that this permission seeking can also be about acquiring permission, not just from the part of us that, wants to see this happening, and saying to that part, it's time for us to give permission for that. But also to getting in touch with those parts of us that may feel afraid or maybe apprehensive to go into that new experience. So to seek permission from that part is also really, really important, because sometimes this is the make or break of us actually venturing into this new experience. We may be with a part of us that really wants to do it, and we start making movements towards that, but then at the very last minute, this other part of us comes in and pulls us out of that experience before we go in that experience, because we didn't negotiate with it. We didn't acknowledge it and give it an opportunity to speak its concerns. So that is actually the solution, or how we work and relate to that part of us. We go in and we have the capacity to go inwards and to connect to that part of us that holds concerns or holds fears about this new experience or this new venture, and really acknowledge that part of us, rather than just going around it or steamrolling ahead. We go in and we meet that part of us and we acknowledge it. We hear its concerns, we feel its fears, And we ask that part of us, what do you need in order to feel safer or better about this new experience? And we listen to what that part of us feels that it needs to create more stability, to create more trust. And we tend to ourselves in that way. We respond to those needs. And then in that way, we are looking after all the parts of ourselves that are involved in this, because sometimes the new experiences, the new things we want to venture into can be tricky, they can be challenging, they can be exciting, there can be a lot of energy behind it. So it's really wonderful as a way of taking our self-care to another level, to really check in with those parts of us that we might forget about, or we might have a tendency to go around when we just dive into a new experience. So what we're doing is we're checking in, we're acknowledging the parts that are there, we're hearing them out, hearing about their fears and concerns, and asking what is needed to create more stability, what is needed to address those fears, how can we negotiate this going into the situation. And then that is a way that we can really tend to ourselves in a deeper way and relate to ourselves in a deeper way. So I hope this video has helped you to understand a little bit more about permission seeking and relating to yourself. And this is also a really beautiful technique to use with others. It's a beautiful way of creating boundaries for others to help safeguard them in their journey, in their exploration, especially when working with very vulnerable people in youth and community work, in therapeutic settings, is to recognize that we have parts that protect us. And in order to be able to help and support that person to explore themselves at a deeper level, we have got to seek permission from their protectors. And so it's not just as simple as, can I ask your protector if it's okay with me asking these questions? Sometimes that in itself can seem, it's a funny way to talk. What we want to do is we want to kind of create a trusting relationship, a trusting interaction, shall we say, where in doing that, we seek permission from that part to be there. So for example, one way that we can seek permission in that way is to let that person know that, that at any time that they can choose, whether to engage with you or not. Okay, so that's giving them the power, putting the power, making it clear that the power is firmly within their hands, and that at any point they can, end this interaction, or giving them the choice that, we could talk and we could explore this, and I think I have a way that could really support you, and I recognize that there are some things that you might be apprehensive about or concerned about, and certainly you don't know me, but what I'd like you to know is that I'm open to sharing with you, but if this is something also that you do not wish to engage with or continue with, I'm happy for us to just sit here, get to know each other, and maybe go for a walk or whatever else it is. So letting that person know that they have the power to navigate this interaction in whichever way that they want, and letting them know that you're not going to assume anything about them. So maybe even saying directly that I'm not going to assume that I understand how it is for you. Maybe letting them know that you are willing to listen very deeply to them and to be mindful about jumping in and telling them what to do, and that your intentions, and making it really clear as to what your intentions are, that your intentions are to listen and to offer guidance if they would like guidance, maybe whether it's to coach or give some therapeutic advice, just being really, really clear about that. And this is something when we work in internal family systems, we do a lot, where at each stage, we are seeking permission with the parts that we're working with to step further. Okay, and this is something that can definitely be incorporated. The principle can be incorporated into a therapeutic setting, in a coaching session, or when working with young people in a youth group, for example. Just seeing permission seeking as more of a holistic dimension to the work, that it's actually about creating stability and trust, being really clear and really transparent about our intentions, and letting that person know that we're going to be going at their pace, at their speed, according to what they desire or they need. And at no point are we assuming that we know what they need, or we know who they are, we know what they're experiencing. This is a very deep listening practice. Okay, so I hope that's helped you, and I'm really excited to connect with you soon. Sending you lots of love. Namaste.